This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson. I'm also here with Jared Davis. We're about to play the Aggies. Not the Aggies that just lost Jimbo, but we're about to play the New Mexico State Aggies. I think they're the real Aggies in my honest opinion, but Texas A&M, yeah, y'all can hate me for that. I don't care. I do not care. So let's talk about the New Mexico State game. Jared, how you feeling heading into this one? We're on a 3-game winning streak, potentially could be 4 if we beat New Mexico State. Got out of the first 4 weeks or the 4 weeks of losses, and now we're kind of rising back up, peaking in November. You love to see it. How you feeling heading into this one?
I mean, I feel good. Hugh kind of hinted at this. He's like, momentum, we have it right now, but you can lose it at any moment. It's a daily thing. And so what you don't want to have happen is all this hard work be wasted. And I don't think that, anybody can win, right? I don't think they come in here and win this game, but they can make it more challenging than we need to. And take away that confidence and momentum that we really need heading into the Alabama game. But all in all, I think in the end it winds up being the score that we expect it to be.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, there's a lot that I think Auburn is doing really well right now, and I as good as New Mexico State is right now, which they're 8-3. They're also, again, showing you how good of a season they're having. They've already claimed a spot in their Conference USA championship game. So they're, even within their own conference, doing really well. But if you look at if we lined up every player and said, this defensive lineman, this offensive lineman, who's going to win? I'd put my money on Auburn every single day. Like, I don't think there should be any of their players that should out-athlete us. So if they maybe pull out a couple tricks, you never know. Could be, again, a little bit tighter. But, I mean, Auburn right now, if you kind of look at the line as far as Las Vegas and how they've set it, 23-point is predicting, or 23-point win for Auburn. Yeah, that's pretty solid. Like, that's what you'd expect. Which, if we do that, awesome. Like, again, 2 wins where we haven't had to really worry at all. And when does that happen? Like, I mean, even I guess the game before, before even Arkansas, why am I blanking on this? Vanderbilt. Yeah, Vanderbilt kind of felt the same. It was pretty close, but they even had like a moment where Vanderbilt kind of could have crept back in. So how cool would it be to finally have back to back times where we don't have to necessarily sweat as an Auburn fan. That would feel a little weird, if I'm being honest, but it's a good weird. Let's kind of do a little bit of our normal thing of doing players to watch. I mean, honestly, there's not a whole lot that you should necessarily always be super concerned about with New Mexico State. Auburn should win. But of Auburn's players, are there particular players on offense that you're going to be watching?
I mean, I want to say, Caleb Burton, to see if his role expands even more. I feel like every game it does, but I'm going to go Cam Brown because we were kind of tough on him in the last podcast, and I do think he is very talented. I want to see how he responds. He did not have a good game against Arkansas. A lot of fans are upset with him. And let's see if he comes back fighting and produces a little better in this game. So I'm going to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, I was kind of going along the same route of the big wide receivers, Cam Brown. I mean, even somewhat Jay Fair in some extent. I want to see the consistent play out of them. We know Javarius Johnson and we know Rivaldo Fairweather are going to be solid. But it's the other guys. And this is a good game to, again, you're probably going to be a lot better than the defensive backs that are covering you. But this is a time to really get those extra reps in there. So I want to see that from those big wide receivers. Let's go over to defense. Jared, who are you going to be watching on defense?
I mean, it's kind of hard not to say McLeod, right? Maybe Falk as well. I feel like those guys are starting to really get pressure. I mean, really probably that whole D line. I mean, I think Marcus Harris is just tearing it up. I think he may have more tackles than Derek Brown did his last year.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's something crazy. So that whole D line, really, I mean, this game right here, again, you really just want to get out without injuries, right? But I feel like I feel like we've found something. We put pressure on Vanderbilt's quarterback. We really put pressure on Arkansas's quarterback. And at this point, it's all about keep that confidence going. Let's get a couple sacks. Feel like you can play above your normal level going into the Bama game. And so I'm keeping an eye on that D line.
Yeah, defensive line should dominate, and I think there's pieces of it, especially our edge rushers like Falk, should be able to get to their quarterback. I mean, like I feel like it's not it like we should expect at least a few sacks in this kind of game, and they have a passing quarterback that is decent. I mean, he's got over 2,000 yards already. He's got I think it's now 19 touchdowns. So, I mean, obviously he can pass pretty well, but our secondary, like, I'm not necessarily worried because our secondary is so solid. On defense, to me, it's like watching anybody because it is so hard to, keep your eyes off this defense because at any moment, any one of them could just be the star in the moment. And I feel like that's kind of fun right now because, like, you could pick, one of the safeties, you could pick any of them because they're all, to some extent, if you're all on the field defensively, you're doing something. I mean, like, I kind of want to say secondary because just in general, because I think that's the only way that they're going to beat us. I'm not worried about the run game. I feel like our defensive line has done a great job of slowing down people's run games, even teams that are really good at running the ball. So I'll just kind of generally say secondary. Let's talk about special teams. We have got, obviously, Oscar Chapman. You got Alex McPherson and all of our kickoff and punt returners because, those are fun. Jared, who are you going to be watching this game?
Special teams. You got to go McPherson. You got to see if he can keep that streak alive. I mean, hopefully we really don't even need him, but I mean, let's score touchdowns and not field goals, right? But if we're going to kick field goals, let's don't blow the streak on this game.
Right. And he just passed, who was it? Daniel Carlson, most consecutive field goals. Is that right?
I did not hear that, but it would not surprise me. It's only like 19 in a row right now or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes.
So for him to keep that going would be awesome, especially heading to the Iron Bowl, where who knows? Like, crazy things have always happened, and I feel like a touchdown, obviously is good, but like sometimes you might need that extra field goal to keep things going for Auburn. So I would love to see us get lots of touchdowns this game and never see Alex McPherson, but at the same time, if you do, let's make some field goals. Special teams for me, I mean, I'm going to call it Bati. Like, how many times am I going to say it? Like, I'm a broken record, but like, I want Bati, especially in a game like this, to take one to the house. And for our special teams to not have a hold. Like, it's kind of a combination. Like, special teams don't hold on a kickoff or a punt return. Like, don't do that. So, let's get into our score predictions for this game. Auburn is projected, according to ESPN stats, to win by 94%, close to it. But you can kind of see New Mexico State surging a little bit. They've won a handful in a row. I think they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. So, they're feeling good. Auburn's feeling good. And, I mean, it could be a little bit closer than you'd want to see. But, I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about this one. Let's talk about our score predictions for this. So preseason, I'd said we'd win by 31 points. You said we'd win by 41 points. And I even had a statement from our preseason, and I'm just now kind of rereading that. I was saying I hope Robbie gets to run the offense and gives Peyton a rest, which I still feel like that's very true. Like this is a game where Peyton is going to come out QB1, and I hope Peyton does get the rest, and we don't have to play him even much in the second half. So that would open up for both Robbie and Holden Gerner to come out there and run the offense a little bit, get some more reps under their belt. So, Jared, score predictions. What you feeling? How are you doing? 41 points is a lot right now. That's what you had predicted preseason. Sticking with your gut?
Did I predict we win by 41?
I hope so. I hope you did.
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty high.
I mean, we just beat Arkansas by 38 points.
I know. I don't know. That's pretty hard to do, really, though. They got a pretty good D. I think we're going to probably put in our backups relatively early into the fourth quarter or late third. I'm going to say we win by 31.
Okay, solid. And that's what I had predicted. And my gut is telling me it could be really, like, it could be either one of two. Like, I'm thinking we win by, like, say, like 17 points, or we win by, like, 40 points. And I don't know if there's any, like, necessarily in between. It's like it could be a somewhat closer game, or it could just be like a complete domination from Auburn. So, like, all right, I'm going to be the optimist. I'm an optimist. Let's say we win by 40. I'm going for it. I'm going big or going home.
I go big or go home. I mean, at the end of the day, I think if this is our last game, I could see 40 more. I just really think this is one of those, and again, this may turn into a fight, right? But if it's not, I think we're going to try to get our starters out as quick as possible, and that's going to allow them to score more points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which could happen, right? I mean, like, it gives Auburn a lot of rest headed into arguably one of the more hyped up Iron Bowls in the pretty much since, like, in my mind, one of the most, except probably 2019, and that was the year Bo Nix actually beat Bama. So it's like this is leading into something a little bit more, and yeah, the coaches are thinking about that. I mean, obviously the game in front of you, win it, but they're also thinking longevity of the season, and the Iron Bowl is going to be physical, so you need everybody as healthy as you can get. So resting the guys before the Iron Bowl as much as you can, I think, is going to be key.
And real quick, I know this is not an Iron Bowl podcast, but I saw where Nick Saban is 4-7 in Jordan-Hare. So
really, it's that low?
Let's just start getting, and remember that counts for LSU as well when he coached there. So let's start revving that up a little bit. We don't have to look. We can look ahead. We're not the football team, so just a little tease of where we might be headed next week with our predictions. But I thought that was interesting. I knew he struggled at Jordan-Hare, but 4-7 is apparently his record there.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I obviously we knew Gus had some pretty crazy games against them, and obviously that skews it a little bit. But
keep in mind, if Tank, of course, everything's crazy, right? Like, life is just crazy. If Tank stays in bounds,
oh my gosh,
he's 3-8 in Jordan-Hare, and Brian Harsin's probably still our coach, and I think we're better off now. So it's kind of weird, right? Yeah. You're like, do you sacrifice that game for? But I mean, literally, if Tank stays in bounds, we win that ball game. I mean, it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
They just don't have enough time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it could be a worse record for Saban.
Yeah. So let's hope we get that big win against Alabama, but we're going to save that for later. We're going to get into it next week because this could be one of the most hyped Iron Bowls in a very long time. Let's transition to our final segment of the day, an Auburn fan perspective of the SEC. A lot was happening, not necessarily always football, but the coaching carousel has begun. Texas A&M, they fired Jimbo Fisher. 75 or I've seen $76 million buyout. Either way, it's ridiculous. Like, somebody put together, it was like the last 4 Auburn coaches that got fired, their buyouts were way less than that, like all combined. And it's like that just puts in perspective how big this buyout is. Like, my mind can't even like really wrap around that Jimbo Fisher is going to get paid $7.2 million per year for the next 8 years. What?
Do you know what Bobby Bonilla Day is? Are you old enough to know what that is?
No, that went right over my head.
Okay, so do you know who Bobby Bonilla is?
No.
Okay,
Should
so
I?
he was a player. He played with Barry Bonds on the Pirates, and then he went to the Mets. So every year on like July 1st, I'm messing up the date. He gets paid $1 million from the Mets. He hadn't played baseball in 20 years.
What?
And so the way his contract was structured, yeah, go look it up. It's Bobby Bonilla Day. And
Okay.
every year, still, he gets paid that $1 million. Hey, Jimbo is going to call him up and be like, I got you beat. I'm going to hey, you get $1 million a year. I'm going to get like 7 a year to not work at my old job.
Yeah. Well, and somebody brought up this opens up, an opportunity where Jimbo, if he really wants to coach again, go to like a small school, like even a group of 5 school that pays nothing, if you still want to coach next year, and you can because it's not about the money. Like he could go to Jacksonville State next year or some other smaller school. He could and still be plenty well off to live. So,
Bobby,
man,
real quick. I know nobody cares. Some people will care if you were born before like 1990. Bobby Bonilla will get paid. He will get paid until 2035.
what?
It is July 1st. He gets 1.19 million every July 1st.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I think he has definitely not played in 15 years. I know that for a
Wow.
fact.
And
Yeah.
I just looked it up. He's 60. So like,
Yeah.
obviously he's not in the MLB anymore.
He's getting 1.19 million just to still be alive. So,
My goodness.
yeah.
I want his agent well, I'm never going to the pros, but
I-
if I did, I'd want him.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. Look, I hate this. I wish I wasn't this way. If I was getting paid $79 million to be fired, I would punt on first down. Like I
That's
would
so true.
literally, yeah. I mean, I would be taking knees at the first drive. I mean, I'm like, please
Right.
fire me. Um,
Right.
yeah. So
It's really crazy. I mean, if there was ever, and I'm sure there are some like legitimate like business kind of jobs that, hey, if you fire me, you owe me this. But that's like coaching is on another level, and it's just skyrocketed in the last, probably like what since 15 years probably, and it's just like it's out of control. Like at some point, I feel like this has got to give, and there's got to be some balance come back, but who knows? It feels like it's never coming back. I do want to, just do a little bit of reflection, a little bit of let's think about memories of Jimbo Fisher. So my very first one was FSU, him being over at Florida State, and I had a hatred towards him even preseason. I bashed him. I was like, he's getting fired this year, and I feel so validated now that he's actually got fired. I thought it would honestly be next year because the buyout would go down a little bit more, but Texas A&M don't care. They want to get that program back on track. It's going downhill quick at Texas A&M. Another couple of fun ones from this year, Eugene Asante. Yeah, he had, I think it was either fumble return or interception, whatever it was. He was running it back, and Jimbo Fisher was on the field, and he almost like, I wish Eugene Asante would have just trucked him. Like he would have legally been able to truck the head coach of the opposite team because he was on the field. Like how cool would that have been? I mean, it's still crazy, but that's fun. So another fun one, and I saw this kind of swirling around the internet the last couple of days. The Jimbo Fisher was given a placard with a national championship, and it said with a blank here, and you're like, he got 0 national championships there. Didn't even get a SEC championship. Nothing.
he finished third or less in 5 of his 6 seasons there. And people are like, well, Auburn hadn't played well either. But literally, like if you were going to plant a university, if you said, Jared, or AJ, I want you to create a university, where are you putting it? Texas. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and how are we going to make it successful? why don't we pair it with a university that has unlimited funds? Okay. And then you're like, wait a minute, we already have one of those. It's called Texas A&M.
Yep.
Like from what I understand, I don't even know this. From what I understand, they dwarf Texas in money. I mean, they have some money, and he finished third or worse in the West 5 of the 6 years, and the only year he did not was the COVID year when he had every offensive lineman was a senior and his quarterback was a senior.
Yep.
So, I mean, he won a championship at Florida State, but I don't know, man.
I kind of put that in like I feel like even Gus had kind of this a little bit at some points, like capturing lightning in a bottle. I think Gus had more sustained success, but there was like this capturing lightning in a bottle that Jimbo did that year with Jameis Winston and that team. It's kind of the same thing, you know. Gus Malzahn was able to do it 2013, 2017, 2019, had really good seasons those years. And Jimbo kind of had those like that moment, and then it was like back to normal. It's back to normal or worse. I mean, you're saying it was, honestly, I think A&M's in a worse spot right now, team morale wise. Now recruiting solid. They're going to be good. They're going to be fine there as long as they get another coach in there quick and keep a lot of those recruits committed. But hey, Auburn's coming after some of them, and I think things will start kind of playing out, because once a team, just kind of as a reminder for you listeners, once a head coach is fired, the players of that team get 30 days. It's essentially like an open transfer portal for those players. Right. So like any of these players could just announce, I'm going to go in the transfer portal right now.
I think 2 of them already have.
Yeah. And so, and that's going to probably overlap with, I think I've heard December 4th, it's somewhere around there, when the official, like every school, the transfer portal opens. So, I mean, if I'm Auburn, Texas A&M has a lot of talent. Go poach some of them. It's legal. Go do it. Throw some NIL money at them, whatever it takes. Because I think they do have some talent, and especially in the wide receiver room, we could definitely benefit from that. Also, kind of interesting thing, if Arkansas does fire Sam Pittman, Travis Williams will be their interim head coach, which I love that. Auburn's ties, T. Will, Travis Williams. When he was coaching at Auburn, I feel like he was just a fan favorite. Still, to some extent is, just with all of his Auburn ties. So I think that would be kind of neat if that ends up happening. And hey, we're recording this on Monday, so by the time this comes out, maybe we already have some news about Sam Pittman. But if not, I've already heard the rumor mill going. I love it. Gus Malzahn's name is thrown around for the Arkansas job, which
Gus will always be connected to the Arkansas job. If I'm Gus, though, true. I'm like, I'm content here in Florida, but he's from Arkansas. I don't know if we're going to get to this. I wanted to ask. Somebody raised this question. Mississippi State, so they have officially parted ways with Zach Arnett.
Yep.
Do they bring back Dan Mullen?
Ooh.
I had not thought about that. I was like, he's not coaching anywhere. He had the most sustained success with them.
He knows. He knows how to recruit over there. He's obviously put together some really good teams.
You probably want a fresh start.
How often do you see that? Yeah.
You don't see it a lot. But if it were me, I wouldn't. If it were me, I would take a chance. I would go get a young, upcoming, hotshot coordinator and just pray it turns out to be kind of like a Kirby Smart. Now Kirby, walked into a sleeping giant with Georgia. They're not really even in the same ballpark. But if they're good enough, but here's the one positive. If Dan Mullen goes to State and he's successful again, I don't know if he leaves. He's already tried the big time scene. Right. Whereas if a hotshot coordinator comes in and succeeds, he would be more tempted to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's an interesting scenario. So I don't think it happens. I don't think Mississippi State would do that. I don't think most teams would do that. Unless it was like early in the career of whatever that coach was, still endeared, goes off to another school, gets developed, and then comes back. But I don't know. That seems a little too like just kind of settling.
He had them ranked in the first ever playoff ranking. They were number 1.
That's true.
Again, I'm with you though. I don't think I'm just thinking more through this. I'm like, it could, but I'm with you. I don't think it
Yeah.
eventually does happen.
Yeah. Um, let's also talk about Bama just absolutely dominating Kentucky. Like I thought it was going to be a game for a little bit, and then nope. Bama was like, we're going to be Bama and just dominate, which that was kind of be expected. I feel like how Bama's offense right now is just clicking on all cylinders, and if Auburn has any chance of beating them in a couple weeks, you got to slow that down by a lot. Um, so another couple of things. Yeah.
Sorry. My favorite season is the beginning of the year season with Kentucky, where they always start out 5-0, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're great, they're ranked, they're good, they're gonna," and then they literally get destroyed by every big opponent they play.
Yeah,
it's like clockwork. Set your clocks to it, folks.
Yeah, it's like, what is it, like 7 or 8 games in, and you're like, here we go. The rest of the season is gonna be trash, and that's where they're at right now.
Yeah,
they're already. I mean, all the fans are already looking towards basketball anyway. So
yeah, I mean, and again, I think they're content with that. I think they're okay with what he's producing up there. But every year, it's like every year they start out, oh, they're gonna give Georgia a game. Oh, they might give Alabama a game. Nope, they lose them all.
Yep. South Carolina. After South Carolina has, I mean, played a few not so great, or played a few games, like they've struggled. And they came out, played Vandy, kept Vandy to 6 points. So props to them for that. And they put up 47 points. So what they I don't know if they figured out anything necessarily that's going to push them to potentially a bowl game. They're 4-6 right now. They have to play Kentucky and Clemson. They got a shot, but
I didn't realize. I mean, this is his third year. I didn't realize they have to win the last two to make a bowl game. If they don't make a bowl game, is he in trouble?
I've heard that his
three?
recruiting. I've heard that his recruiting is good enough that it might keep him out off the hot seat for one more year.
It's year 3 though.
I know.
I don't want it to happen. I mean, I want all people to keep their jobs. I'm just thinking like historically, year 3 is like the year you got to produce.
Well, even a lot of these coaches now, like we used to think, 3 to 4 years was kind of like give them time. Now you got transfer portal, and I think that shrunk down to like legitimately like a year and a half to 2 years. If you're not showing progress in a year and a half to 2 years as a head coach, you're gone. And you got a point. Year 3.
He did get on a really hot streak at the end of last year, and they beat Clemson. That probably bought him another year, regardless of what happens this year. But yeah, you gotta. I mean, same with Hugh Freeze. I mean, year 3. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. With the 12-team expanded playoff, year 3, you need to be in that combo.
Yeah, for real. So, I that would be kind of interesting in my mind. That's all part of this coaching carousel that has begun in the SEC. Does that happen? Maybe. Could be. Missouri beat Tennessee. And that, both teams ranked 13th and 14th, respectively. I thought that was going to be a closer game. But Missouri, man, they're having some really good success this year. They're 8-2 right now, and they're about to go play Florida. It's probably going to be a win there. About to play Arkansas. Legitimately, think about this. Play this scenario out. Missouri is probably a 10-2 team at the end of the season, and probably ranked in the top 10. Isn't that crazy? Like they're having a really good season.
I thought they were insane for extending Drinkowitz's contract at the end of last year. But they obviously knew more than I did. They're playing really good ball.
Yeah.
Tennessee, I'm going to stick with it. I said it about 6 weeks ago. I still think they beat Georgia at home, and here's why. Tennessee on the road averages 28 points a game. At home, they average 48. They are a very different team on the road. They got beat very badly by a good Missouri team. Georgia eventually is going to lose, and I think it happens in Knoxville this week.
You're probably right. I mean, I feel like there is a big advantage to playing, and I've been to Knoxville. I mean, they when they have like a decent season, Tennessee, and right now they're 7-3. They're having a pretty good season. They're kind of like on the cusp of like having a great season. And if they could beat Georgia, I think it puts you into like a great season for them. So watch out for that game coming up this Saturday. And then LSU. I mean, my goodness. LSU just like their offense. I know they struggled against Bama, but that was also because Jaden Daniels went out and Bama just their defense is pretty legit. But by Jaden Daniels by himself, he accounted for 600 yards. Just one player. Passing, running the ball, everything. You're like, that is ridiculous. And so here's kind of like to come back to like a Heisman topic. I feel like in my mind, just based on what I've seen, Heisman, you have to be on a really successful football team to become a Heisman. Like you can't have like a 6-6 or even a 8-4 type season and be considered a Heisman.
But I think you're right. I think that's wrong though. Like you are correct.
Yeah. And that was kind of my point is like, I think that's wrong because Heisman isn't, you're on a successful team and you're a successful player and a really good athlete. It's, you're
the best player in college football.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like we've messed up. Like, for example, we will crown the best player on the best team, the Heisman. And you're like, no, that's MVP. You're missing the point here. That most valuable player, when Alex Rodriguez won MVP for the Rangers and they didn't even make the playoffs, they messed it up. Like he might be the best player in baseball, but you can't be most valuable when you don't make the playoffs. Like,
yeah.
So I think sports mess this up all the time. Listen, I would rather Bo Nix get it, to be honest with you, and I think he is the odds-on favorite right now in Vegas. Jaden Daniels is the Heisman winner. I mean, I've watched him play enough football. The guy's ridiculous. You can't stop him. When he's on, he's on. He's not like Cam, because Cam could literally also just like was physically outpower you. Jaden can't do that. But he just has an uncanny knack for like knowing when to run, when to not. He throws a beautiful fade. Everything works. Watching him play, I don't know how you stop him when he's on. If they had any sort of a defense, they'd be in the national title conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just, to me, no offense to Bo Nix, I actually hope he wins it, but to me, Jaden Daniels is my Heisman winner.
Yeah, me too. And you can see it. Like in his play, there is no doubt in my mind he is the best player on the field at any moment.
Yeah, he's insane. I mean, and we held him last year to under 100 yards passing, but it was like it clicked after that game. He took off and added the throwing to his running that he already had. And so, yeah, he's the Heisman. But you're right. I wasn't saying you're wrong. In the past, you have to win a lot of games. I feel like if they hover in that 3-loss and don't lose again, he probably can get it. But yeah, if they lose 4 games, they're going to hold that against him.
I mean, and that's what sucks about it. Like, I think he'll probably get to go to, what is it, usually New York, and do the Heisman. He'll be in the top 3. He'll get to go. But I genuinely hope he gets it, even though I also want it for Bo. Like, I think Bo Nix, I mean, we obviously at Auburn had the kind of funny phrase, like, he's the dark horse for Heisman kind of deal. and now he might legitimately be, which is a really cool, like, capstone to his long career in college football.
He also was playing football when the Heisman was invented, I think. He's been around so long. So just go ahead and give it to him.
I know. Jared, any other final thoughts about New Mexico State? Any other things going on that you want to point out?
No, I think just get through it without injuries. Let's look, keep that momentum going. Look, don't take a step back. And yep, that's my game plan
for sure.
For the upcoming game.
If I'm just asking for a clean game, no injuries, and get on to the next one. Like, get yourself ready mentally, physically for Alabama, because we all know that's going to be a physical game in Jordan here the week following. So, Jared, before we get out of here, how can people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on X at AJAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.